And then, just 4 months prior to my walk in that park, I would discover that I had been infected with the HIV virus. And based on the results of my blood work, I was given 3 months to 3 years to live. You might remember that in 1992, HIV/AIDS was a death sentence. There was no hope in 1992. And here I was, 28 years old, and I would soon be dead. I will tell you that I felt so lonely in that, probably because I'd only told one friend about my test results, and I truly had no support system then. I felt so alone. I felt guilty for doing something that perhaps was now going to kill me. I felt like I was dirty inside. I felt hopeless, and I was very, very scared. But mostly, I felt incredibly ugly and unworthy of anything, especially love. So I walked through the park that afternoon, and I came up on a bench that you'll see up there. And I sat down and heard the dry brown leaves crunch under my feet. And I cried my eyes out. I lost my innocence, my love, my health, and was headed for one of the most horrible deaths a person could have. I just felt hopeless. But eventually my tears would dry up, and I would stare downward at those scattered leaves around my feet, and in doing so, I noticed a huge tree root. And my eyes followed that root over to the oak tree that stood next to me. I looked up to the top of that tree and began to realize that that tree was a little like me. It had lost its leaves, looked pretty bare and ugly, and maybe it was frightened about the winter harshness about to arrive. But the tree really didn't look scared. The tree knew it had a job to do. It had to provide shelter and protection for the other creatures in the park during those winter months to come. It had to be there to participate in this ecological system that would allow all the other trees in the park to continue to survive, along with the bushes and the plants and the flowers. It knew that if it would do the work that it was meant to do, it had a creator who would soon bring the sunlight and fresh spring rain so that the tree could blossom again its beautiful green leaves, grow its fruit, and return to its spectacular beauty once again when winter was through. That tree told me what I had to do. I then walked home. I decided to call my family members and disclose to them one by one my diagnosis so I could build a support system. I found a church that I loved and would eventually attend a special healing service there where I felt the healing power of my Lord burn within me. I went to my doctor, who had told me to start preparing for death, to tell him that I had been healed. He laughed, but he did tell me to hold on to that hope because that's all I had. I also told him that I needed to find a way to tell people that HIV is real and it's here, and tell of its devastation to protect those around me from getting infected the way I did. He then took me on as a sidekick for when he would speak at events about the medical aspects of the disease. He wanted me to speak about the emotional pain and struggle associated with living with this death sentence. Somehow, the word of our little road show got out, and one day I received a call from the Red Cross. On the other end of this call was a woman who wanted me to become a speaker for that agency about the impact of this disease. Of course, I agreed. Because like the tree having to do its work during its winter, I felt like I needed to also have to do the work during my own winter to get through it. She would book me at churches, colleges, at medical forums where I would tell my story and answer questions. She even booked me at a local high school, but when the parents refused to allow me to speak to their kids, she arranged with the teacher to sneak me in through the boiler room, unnoticed, so I could talk to these kids. Folks, here's a little secret. That lady's name was Marilyn Hamilton. And I'm sure Marilyn may remember when they booked me to be the keynote speaker for the opening night of the AIDS quilt exhibition in Davenport. During that speech, I spoke of my struggles in living with HIV, but I concluded by pointing out the various quilts made by the families of friends of those lost to the disease. Then I pointed out a couple of the panels that I had helped on for the people that I had lost. But that night, I ended my speech by informing the audience that no one would have to make a quilt for me because I wasn't going to let this disease take me down. I must tell you that last Sunday, June 23rd, marked 32 years that I have survived that fatal disease, knocking down that whole 3 months.